Welcome to the 17th video in the Colored Pencil course brought to you by thevirtualinstructor.com, Portrait Drawing Part 5. In this module, we'll continue our look at portrait drawing with colored pencils. The focus of this module will be on drawing the hair and finishing the portrait. When drawing hair, three factors should be considered: the form of the hair, the texture of the hair, and the linear nature of the hair. Addressing the form of the hair. The form of the hair is developed through accurate shape and defining the light source through the placement of highlights and shadows. Addressing the texture of the hair. The texture of the hair is communicated through the relationships and placement of light and dark values. Addressing the linear nature of the hair. Line is used to add interest and realism to the hair. It is used in various locations in the body of the hair, but also around the edges of the shape of the hair. Depending on the type of the hair, the characteristics of the line used will vary. Let's take a closer look at each one of these factors. First, the shape of the hair is critically important. We'll define the shape first. Then we'll make sure that we define a strong light source by creating highlights and shadows. The texture of the hair is created by the relationships between dark values and light values. It is the combination of light and dark values that will lead to the illusion of realistic texture. We'll also consider linear marks that will be made throughout the body of the hair, but also around the edges of the shape of the hair. Lines created within the body of the hair will be subtle, while lines made around the shape of the hair will be more defined. We'll start by defining the shape using dark umber with a heavy application. We'll be sure to leave spaces for highlights. It's a good idea to be liberal with the amount of space that you leave for the highlights. It's better to leave too many spaces than to accidentally cover up areas that need to be highlighted. Where the hair meets the head, the line is less defined. In fact, in the case of this subject, some of the hair flows down in front of the forehead. This will be addressed as the shape is defined. As marks are made, some consideration should be given to the flow or texture of the hair. Directional lines exist in these areas. It's a good idea to make your marks following the directional lines that you observe in the subject. As we near the light source on the upper right-hand portion of the body of the hair, there are more areas of highlight. Varying the amount of pressure that you place on the pencil in these areas can lead to nice midtones, which will help further the illusion of the texture of the hair. As marks are made down the side of the face, close attention is paid to the subtle lines that exist in the reference. As the edge of the hair is defined, any alterations that need to be made to the side of the face can be made during this stage. A bit of the ear is visible through the hair. We'll address this with beige, peach, and then a bit of dark brown. Then we'll continue on down the side of the face with the dark umber. The lower portion of the hair has areas where lines are very clearly defined coming out from the main shape of the hair. These lines should be made with confidence. Heavy pressure is placed on the pencil as they are made. These lines will taper and change shape as they extend outward from the main body of the hair. Hair that's close to the face tends to be darker in value because less light can reach those areas. Hair that extends outward or the outward edges of the hair tend to be lighter in value because light is able to hit these areas. We'll add a bit of skin tone that is visible between breaks in the hair just at the bottom portion of the neck. We'll do this with beige, layered with dark brown, and then burnished with a colorless blender. Now we can take the dark umber and draw directly over the top of the area of skin tone. Here again we'll create defined lines to indicate individual strands of hair. it's a good idea to make sure that your pencil is nice and sharp when you are addressing these areas. Here again, heavy pressure is applied on the pencil. We'll next address the small bit of hair that's visible on the left side of the face. Most of this area is made up of lines. Here again, these lines should be made with confidence, with deliberate marks. It's a good idea not to be tentative with these marks, but pay close attention to the lines that are observed and make the marks with confidence. We'll create some of the highlights in the hair, but instead of using white, we'll use a cloud blue. Using cloud blue will lead to more natural light hitting the surface of the hair instead of using white. Now we'll start to darken up some of the shadowed areas, and although not always advisable, we'll use black for this. Since we've already laid down dark umber, the black will naturally mix with the umber, making it a little less intense. Medium to heavy pressure is applied with the black. Too much pressure and the black will overpower the dark umber underneath. We still want some of the warmth from the dark umber to show through. Not all areas will receive an application of black, just the darkest areas of shadow. This color is applied in the same manner that the dark umber was applied, with consideration to the linear marks that happen within the body of the hair and the linear marks that happen around the edges of the shape of the hair. We can also tone down areas of highlight that we were liberal with earlier on in the process, condensing them down to the right shape in the right locations. Now we can address some of the small lines that happen around the shape of the hair. We'll use dark umber for this. Here again, it's a good idea to be very deliberate with your marks. Pay close attention to the subtle lines that happen around the shape of the hair of your subject. Frequently, small, stray hairs will find their way outside of the body portion of the hair. Including these adds a nice level of realism to your drawing. In the case of this subject, these small lines are frequent and happen in all portions of the hair. We'll make a few alterations to the line where the hair meets the forehead, adding varying intensities of line in these areas. A colorless blender is then used to complete the vignette appearance that we're after with this colored pencil drawing. This will add the effect that the hair fades into the white that surrounds it. And this completes our portrait. So what did we discuss in this module? Communicating the hair in a drawing is reliant on the form, texture, and linear nature of the hair. The form of the hair is addressed through shape and placement of the highlights and shadows. The texture of the hair is addressed through the relationships of the dark and light values. And line is used to add interest and realism to the drawing by mimicking the linear characteristics of the hair type. In the next module in this series, we'll start our look at combining colored pencils with other media.